Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 5 a.m. in Tokyo. We have another session here with great speakers from the States. Let me introduce Emily White and Olympic gold medalist Kaitlin Sandeno.
Hi.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
So great to be here. Thank you.
We are so excited about having you guys. Thank you very much for joining us. So first of all, we want to know about you a little bit more. So can you introduce yourself first, Emily?
Sure. My name is Emily White. I'm a founding partner at Collective Entertainment here in New York City. We work in music and sports. We manage Kaitlin, Anthony Urban, and David Marsh in the sports space, as well as some skydivers. I'm also the founder of the I Voted concert series and the author of 2 books. One is called Interning 101. The other is a long title, the music business book.
That's cool. Okay, so Kaitlin.
Hi, my name is Kaitlin Sandeno. I am a 2-time Olympic swimmer. I competed in the 2000 and the 2004 Olympic Games. I'm proud to say I have 1 gold, 1 silver, and 2 bronze medals, but also placed 4th and 6th. Every race that I competed in, I made it to finals, so I'm pretty proud to say that. Former world record holder for the 4x200 freestyle relay. We broke the oldest world record in the history books at that time. Former American record holder, national champion, I think 10 times. Right now, I am currently DC Trident's GM, one of 10 teams in ISL, the International Swimming League, and I also released a book last summer called Golden Glow.
Thank you very much. It's really exciting. I was a swimmer myself until university in Japan, and I have some friends, who participated in Olympic Games as well. So, yeah, super excited to have you guys as one of the swimming community person. So, thank you very much. So I think we want to start discussing and covering some topics. So this session, I want to discuss some of your sporting life with music, Emily. Since you're a swimmer as well, but also your professional career in music industry, which is really interesting and unique. So I'd like to know about your career background. How did you get involved in the music industry?
Definitely. It was my dream to work in the music industry. I'm from the middle of the United States, from a village. There's no music industry. But I found Northeastern University's music industry program, and they were a Division I school for swimming. So I worked so hard in the pool. I come from a family of swim coaches. Swim coaches don't always make a ton of money, and Northeastern's a private university. So I worked really hard, got a swimming scholarship to Northeastern, and did a lot of internships in college. Most significantly, I worked with a band called the Dresden Dolls, who actually brought me to Japan for the first time on tour years and years ago. And really grew up professionally with that band, worked at their management company. My boss at that management company left, and I went with him to work at Live Nation Artists, where the first signees were Madonna, U2, Jay-Z, and Zac Brown. That all fell apart. And so I founded my first company in 2008, where we managed music and comedy and sports. My longtime business partner left management, and we launched Collective Entertainment in 2018. And now we solely focus on music and sports.
So you started with music basically in your professional career?
That's right. Yeah, I was a music industry major at Northeastern.
That's interesting. And you were one of the South by Southwest mentoring program?
Yeah, I was supposed to speak at South by this year. It would have been my 18th South by, so an adult. So, yeah, I've been heavily involved over the years. I'm on their advisory board. I speak every year, and I've been a mentor as well.
Wow. So, we are running this event called HiVE, and we would like to be like a South by Southwest type of festival. We started from one of the conference called Sport Analytics Japan, which is focused on analytics and the data used in sport. So it's really niche field of the market, but it's kind of unique that sport analyst has really handful set of skills in sport, and also outside of sport. So we would like to promote their skill sets to expand to other social connection. So like South by Southwest started with indie artist, promoting indie artist to the bigger market. So we would like to start with promoting sport analysts to bigger market and expanding to more expertise. So I'd like to learn a lot about that later.
Definitely.
Okay, so Kaitlin, talk about your swimming career background. How did you start swimming, and when you started aiming to be Olympic and Olympic medalist?
Well, I was just a huge water baby from the start. Like, my parents couldn't even get me out of the bathtub. That's how much I liked just to be in the water. And as soon as I was walking, I was going off the diving board. I had no fear of the water. My dad would just be waiting for me to jump in. I would pop up, he'd help me to the side, I would just do it again. My mom said, you just go back and forth, diving board, pool out, diving board, pool out. So when I was 5 years old, I joined a summer league swim team. Obviously not super competitive at 5 years old, but we swam 3 months in the summer, and just had a huge liking of it. I was super competitive. I was really good at breaststroke, and I always looked around to see like where I was. And I used to touch and jump out of the pool really fast because I thought it was a race to get out of the pool too. So obviously, like, I just feel like some people are born competitive, and I was. But I also did a lot of sports growing up. I was heavily involved in soccer, cross country, and basically every sport you can think of, I at least did a season of it. And I think that's important. I think that's what helped keep me well-rounded and kept me fresh in the sport. I think it's easy to get burnt out on any sport, especially swimming, because of all the hours and time that we dedicate to it. So I didn't become a real primary swimmer until the middle of the 8th grade. And once I got to high school, which is roughly like 13, that's when I decided to commit all my time to swimming, and I stopped soccer and I stopped cross country. But honestly, I didn't overthink the sport too much. I worked really hard. I did what my coaches asked. I don't know how many swimmers would say, oh, I love training, but I love to race, and that's why I trained hard. And then I made my first international swim team when I was 16. It was the 1999 Pan American Games in Winnipeg, Canada. And I won both of my events and broke 2 Pan American records. And I think that's when the light bulb went off. That's when I realized that I was good or better than good. And that was kind of just the eye-opening experience, being at my first international competition and placing that well. And then, a couple weeks after that competition, my club coaches said, do you want to train for the Olympics? And I said, yeah, let's go for it. And then we never talked about it again. It wasn't like this ongoing like conversation. It was like, all right, let's cue your parents in, tell them what the goal is. And not a whole lot changed. I started doing maybe a couple more morning workouts a week because I'm not a morning person. So it was hard to get me out of the bed. And then honestly, I made the Olympics the next summer. So I almost feel kind of weird saying that, because it was a lot harder than that sounds. But just, it wasn't like something that was like embedded in my mind until I was older, until I had like my driver's license. But it was pretty surreal how it came together, and grateful for, the upbringing that I had in the sport, that it wasn't too serious from the beginning. I think it's important to kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. We don't need to commit to one at a young age, which you're starting to see a lot, I think across the world, really.
That's great. I think one of the motivation to compete in that level. Once you get on the national team, I think you want to come back to make the team again.
It's exactly. It's
right?
like when you get a taste of it, you want to do it again. And so when I went to my first Olympics, I'm like, I want to do that again. And even just, being now a spectator, being on my couch watching the Olympics, I'm like, I wish I could do that again. So you're right. It's you always want to repeat it because it is such a incredible honor, adrenaline high. I mean, it doesn't get much more supreme than that for our sport.
Yeah, especially like sport of swimming is like kind of like a small community. So
definitely. Like when you said I was a swimmer and then only swimmer, it's like, we have a very close-knit community, and it's like, it's almost like a sorority fraternity. It's a bond that people instantly connect with, having been a swimmer.
Yeah, I was working for Japan swimming team, so I kind of taste that.
Yes.
A lot. Once you go to an international competition, you see a lot of people from all over the world, and whenever you go to the international meet, you meet again. So that's kind of like a motivation to go there. So obviously, for athletes, swimmers want to join another time. So I think that's a great motivation.
It is. It keeps you going, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's an interesting part of kind of community to make. And so I think that kind of connect to what you are doing as general manager for DC Trident, one of the international swimming leagues club.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a new community in swimming.
True.
So how do you describe that, your role in DC Trident?
Yeah, absolutely. So last year was our first season, and at that time we had 8 teams. Now currently we have 10, with Tokyo being one of the newer teams. And I came on board as the general manager of the DC Trident team. Responsibilities consist of basically everything, being that it's a startup. The primary focus was obviously building a team, getting athletes on board with this brand new concept. It's a much different setup than a lot of typical swim meets or just swim seasons in general. So getting 32, or at that time 28 athletes, really excited to be on board, a staff to be in charge of all the in-water rosters and training and whatnot. So that consisted of a head coach and 2 assistant coaches, a team manager, which was Emily White, 2 physios or massage therapists. So it was a really amazing experience. I think what we had touched on earlier prior to this is that, swimming is really popular every 4 years, and then it really just kind of is in the shadows in between. But every year there's amazing swimming and competitions, and world champions are performing at their peak, even in off years. So with ISL, the hope is to really highlight the sport more, make it a professional sport. Growing up, especially in the US, a lot of kids say, when I grow up, I want to be a professional football player, or a professional baseball player. Kids that swim couldn't say, I want to be a professional swimmer. But now we literally have kids saying, when I grow up, I want to be on DC Trident, or I want to be a professional swimmer. It's like, that's incredible to really, really just expand the sport. I mean, it is so popular, and it's a sport that so many people partake in, let it be in a pool or open water, or swimming in a lake, or, it's a life skill for a lot of people. And that's something that, USA Swimming's trying to do, is spread the awareness of learning how to swim. So having this being more part of our culture, where it's a professional sport, and really help elevate these athletes' platform, their recognition, building a brand. And really that's important for Emily and I, is help them with financial opportunities, because a lot of these athletes have to have a job while they're training for the Olympics, or have to do swim lessons like in between, and swim lessons are exhausting, and you're trying to train for the Olympics. So that financial component is really missing in the sport. And with ISL, they're really trying to break those barriers and give these athletes an opportunity to strictly be professional athletes as swimmers.
Good. So I'm sure general manager of the club is really, really tough. And you have to manage all the team, right? Like swimmers and staff members.
Swimmer staff members, and then being a startup. I mean, we did everything last year, huh, Emily? From accounting to PR to merchandise to sponsors. I mean, I have personally never been a part of a startup to this capacity. I'm a partner in a swim fin company called Laguna Fin, but it's very grassroots, and we have already had some moving pieces. ISL was brand new, and to be a part of something so massive, like you said, I mean, it's a lot of undertaking, but I'm just so grateful to have Emily's background being the business side. So obviously my connections and my visibility in the sport has been, strong throughout the years. And I feel like I do really well connecting with the athletes and getting the staff and building that relationship and community and communication and just the team morale. But for me, the business side was all very new and just thinking outside the box. And that's what's so amazing about Emily, as we touched on her background in sports, specifically swimming, and then entertainment and business. And the list goes on and on. So I'm a big believer of surrounding yourself around people that make you better and, being okay with admitting your weaknesses and what you're not good at, because we can't be good at everything, right? Mm-hmm. So building those people and building, your tribe or your village, for us, our staff, which we didn't really have a budget for, so trying to pull knowledge and insight from people, because, my background is swimming, and that's great for ISL in certain areas, but there's other areas because it needs to operate like a successful business.
If I can just jump in too, Kate, I mean, maybe this seems obvious, but like Kaitlin's work ethic is like nothing I've ever seen. You're just so on top of things. So yeah, hire distance swimmers because
yeah, the swimmers, they put in the work.
So it seems like you guys have great teamwork.
It's all about teamwork. It's about teamwork and no egos.
Yes.
That's our motto.
Absolutely.
So I'm interested in what Emily's role actually in the team, like business side, but everything as a manager.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Kaitlin kind of described it. I just helped Kaitlin with whatever she needed. And, I have run businesses and startups before, so I was kind of able to look at the big picture and help fill things in. But it really was Kaitlin leading the charge. I mean, leading the team meetings, recruiting the athletes, dealing with contracts. So, but teamwork is the right word for sure. And again, I think even though people consider swimming an individual sport, I think we all love I know we all love our teammates. We all love our training partners and are used to having coaches and things like that. So whether it's DC Trident, whether it's my company, whether it's the I Voted team, I just think we all know how to work as a team. And Kaitlin's exactly right. Like no egos, best idea wins, put the work first and take care of each other.
Yeah. That's huge. Taking care of each other. It's like that was our biggest priority, is making sure that our athletes were number one always, for the swimmer, by the swimmer, and letting their voice be heard. And, this is for them. We're doing it for them. Like last year was a lot of hard work. And quite frankly, there was days where I can't do this anymore, but knowing that it was for these athletes and growing our sport really, which we all three have, it's been a big part of our life. So if we can grow the sport even more for the next generation, it makes those hard work or those major headaches worth it.
So ISL has some franchises, and DC is one of the franchise, I believe.
Yes.
So do you have some commitment to the local community in DC area?
That's been something that we're trying to sort through too. Obviously, this year that we're currently in, this season was supposed to look a whole lot different than what it is now charted to be. Ultimately we want to establish some real roots in the community with fans and sponsorships and partnerships and et cetera. But this year the concept of the league has had to obviously shift, like everything has, more to a camp type setting. So instead of having meets across the world, it's going to be one facility, one location for a chunk of time. The goal is to keep athletes off of planes and traveling less, but still getting high quality training and racing. So the plan is to be in one location, which at this time is not located in the US and it's not located in DC. So it's a little bit harder to have those deep roots. But at the same time, we've already started to build a culture with fans the last season, getting our fan merchandise out there. There's already people that have pride for our team. But it's hard, for our sport, because unlike most of the major sports, there's an arena for that team, right? There's no arena for DC Trident at this time. Obviously big picture years to come, that would be surreal, and that's the ultimate goal. But it's baby steps. And that's one of the things that I need to work on and, sync up with people that really know how to develop that. But that is the goal in the end, to have a deep-rooted DC Trident fan base out of DC.
And we did have people on the 2019 roster who are from the area. So obviously Katie Ledecky was on the team. Giles Smith is from Baltimore. That's very close to DC. So that was a really cool tie-in. Local media and things like that really got behind our hometown athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the important part, I think. So, Kosuke Kitajima, he will lead the team in Tokyo next year. That's announced. And we are, as Japanese swimming community, we're excited about that happen. Basically, last year, all the teams were based in the States and somewhere Europe.
Yes. 4 in the US and 4 in Europe.
Okay, so this is the first Asian franchise, right?
Yes, that's correct.
I think some of the meet needs to be travel long trip for dual meet. So that's going to be a challenge, I think.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Challenge, but I mean, athletes come over for World Cup and jump around continents and countries. So I'm not saying it isn't brutal or hard, but I do think they're pretty accustomed to it.
Exactly. And again, everybody's in the same boat. I mean, obviously traveling from different locations, but in the world of professional sports, you're going to have those long flights. That's for sure. And it's part of coming out stronger, faster, tougher. I mean, that's what it is to be an elite athlete.
And also it's going to be changing some sort of traits or training style for swimmers, I think. Because they keep racing, up and coming events.
Yeah.
So, do you think it's gonna be like changing the swimmers' training style or lifestyle?
It's a really good point that you bring up. Obviously this season we were supposed to start all of our matches right after the Olympics, and we had a lot of athletes that were committed saying that I'm gonna rest more for these meets because there's a lot of prize money involved, and they're going to be racing more as well. But having said that, being in the year that it is now, that we're another year from the Olympics, I think it is going to take another year for that to change, because everybody's goal and what we support is their Olympic, dreams and ambitions. But I do think you have a really solid point there. I think that this league has an opportunity to maybe shift people's mindset as far as training. And I was always raised, even being a distance swimmer, that racing is part of your training. And I strongly believe that's the case. The more you race, it's only for the better. But when you're dangling a lot of prize money in front of somebody, you're probably going to want to rest and shave and be more ready to go at all times of the season, instead of, just the end of the season or your specific championship meets. But yeah, definitely, I think it's going to change the culture of training and preparing for races.
Well, I think it's also, especially on the coach's end, the meets are integrated into training, right?
Yes.
So Coach David Marsh, he has Team Elite. Last year he was able to look at the ISL schedule, and as Kaitlin just said, racing is so important. So instead of doing a race pace day, right? Like the coaches can factor that in and know that, well, they're going to have a meet. So actually that's our race pace day. So I think it actually integrates really well into the coach's plan in non-pandemic times.
Yes.
So you use the race as a training.
Yeah,
as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, instead of getting up on the blocks and practice and racing your teammates, you get to race for prize money on television, which is pretty awesome.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Better than just looping in the pool for training.
A lot more exciting.
Especially for you, Kaitlin, if you had this type of competition when you were active, you were happy about that, right?
Yeah, I think I would have made some good money.
And you said you love you
Racing.
love racing.
I get to race so much. Yeah, definitely. And I was pretty diverse. So I could have swam a lot of events from the 2 fly, 2 back, 4 a.m., 2 a.m., 4 free, 2 free. I think obviously with the schedule is boom, 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 boom. Like there's not a lot of rest in between races. So it would have had to be smart on that. But I think this league would have been well suited for this league had it existed.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Versatile swimmers are so valuable in this thing because there's a lot of events. So yeah, we'd take Kaitlin now if she
And like you said, a lot of events and not a lot of swimmers allowed on a roster. So that's where it gets really tricky because we've had some swimmers that some of their best events are back to back and there's just no way to pull it off. So, I mean, we had Zach Apple on our team last season and he didn't even swim the junior freestyle. It's one of his best races is because we need him for the sprints and, relays are worth double and skins are worth triple, so there's a lot of strategy, which Emily, don't you think that's different for coaches too? It's not just like, okay, some of your best events. Coaches really have to think points opposed to best events. Like if it comes down to a team and all the points, and there's a lot more, like I said, strategy that goes into it than the typical swim meet. It's exciting. It's really fun.
Yeah, and it was really important to us. It was hard, but it was really important to us at the recruiting level to make sure we have no holes. And maybe that's obvious, but I just didn't want to see like, a 50 freestyler having to do a 400 or whatever, which happens sometimes, So I was really proud of the depth that we had, all those 400 IMers, all those 200 stroke people. So yeah, there's a lot of strategy that goes into it.
Which started with the recruiting too, from the beginning. It's like, Emily's knowledge in the swim world is so huge. So knowing people's versatility and knowing that was on us, right? Because that's like the first steps was recruiting. So it's like, obviously we know the events, but who are swimmers that can do more than 1 or even 2 events? Usually like we're looking for people that are strong in up to 4 events and more than anything are really clutch in relays. And that's where a lot of the points were. And that's why everybody loves to be in relays. So the recruiting process is quite strategic as well.
How do you guys recruit the athletes?
Instagram.
Oh my gosh. It was a free for all, really. I was one of the last GMs to come into it last season. And a lot of athletes because they tried to get this off the ground in 2018, end of 2018. Then there was some conflict with FINA and some obstacles that they couldn't pull together in time. So there's already swimmers that they had committed ready to rock and roll in 2018 that were already on teams. So, and those were, some of the best swimmers in the US at least. And then coming in 2019, I was kind of behind as far as getting athletes on board, but a lot of it was just picking up the phone and getting in touch and social media being so big, going through social media channels, reaching out via Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. A lot of younger generation doesn't really check their email as much. And it was just trying to sell them on your vibe really and what you're promoting. And Emily and I did something different where we did most favored nations where all of our athletes were going to receive the same compensation being on our team. And then it was on them to win more money with their prize money. Get your hand on the wall first and you're making a lot of money. And that was different. We're the only team that did that and revenue share. And so we try to set ourselves apart. But we had to sell ourselves. And I think a lot of people vibe off of people's energy. And we were very specific with the type of culture that we wanted on the team. Very positive, upbeat, enthusiastic team player. For this season, my head coach, Cindy Gallagher, has spent time reaching out to coaches and asking what their swimmers are like. Are they a team player? Will they step up? Is there an attitude? Is there an ego? Because that's really important to us because obviously we want fast swimmers, but we want great role models. And we don't want to deal with any divas on the team, really. We don't have time for that. We're all in this together. And I think culture is just as important to me than speed.
I obviously wasn't swimming on the team, but that was like the best team camaraderie I've ever seen and really been a part of it. It was really a wonderful culture last year.
I think one of the uniqueness of swimming is like men's and women's training together.
Absolutely.
And as one team, competing as one team, it's really unique. In other professional sports, there no such kind of thing. Always, complete different leagues, complete different teams. But swimming, especially like format like ISL, you have to compete together. So, is that something that you think uniqueness of swimming?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny because I've only been a swimmer. I've been a swimmer my whole life. So sometimes I kind of forget about that truly, I think maybe track and field would be the exception. But other than that, I mean, it's very separate entities, and most universities are split too. I did go to a university where the men and women train together. And for the ISL, which is also being integrated into the Olympics, the co-ed relays, the mixed relays. I mean, never in a million years would I think co-ed relays would exist. But it's exciting. And for me personally, training with men only pushed me more. And I know men said training with women pushed them more because they don't want to get beat by the women, right? So it goes both ways. But that also makes a very unique, vibe and culture and environment on teams too. You got to make sure that's really in check and that, everybody's respectful of each other. And, something that was different with DC Trident also was that we were all female staff. And female staff that were also coaching men, and not a lot of men are used to an all-female staff. I actually don't know if any of them have, and female coaches in swimming are very kind of rare, especially at that higher level. But I just feel like it just brought, again, a different environment to our program, to our team. A lot of communication skills, which I think men do appreciate. They're maybe just not always used to it. And, I've had athletes reach out to me and be like, thank you so much for communicating, letting us know and keeping us in a loop. And I think it's important, and they're professionals. We need to treat them like professionals and communicate as much as we can to them. And especially with something that's so new, and especially in this time where things are so up in the air.
I just want to add as a swimmer, and I'm going to guess Kaitlin feels this way. Training with men and boys growing up, I mean, it's really defined my professional career. Because, in my early 20s, I'd be in big meetings and my business partner would say gosh, you walk in there like a 50-year-old man or something. And I realized in hindsight, if you can beat them in the pool, I would never walk into a professional situation and feel intimidated, to be honest. Not that I always beat the guys, but you know that you can. So, and I think what I love about all genders training together is you go through that process, right? Like all three of us have done that. It is so hard, and you get through those sets and you support each other. So I've always been really comfortable with men because of that. And it's definitely something I've taken for granted, but it's something that I appreciate more now professionally.
That's a really good point.
That's interesting. Yeah, so I think that's...
Sorry, I just spoke to my club team and I said that. And my training partner, who is one of the best swimmers in the country, I said that. I was like, yeah, I used to beat Mark, so I could do that, in real life. And he's like, I don't really remember you ever beating me.
You're like, I do.
But I think this could happen in men and women, but also in swimming, we can train together, compete together with Olympic swimmer and Paralympic swimmer. It's just my opinion. It'd be interesting to see if ISL includes some Paralympic swimmers in the team in some category. How do you think about that?
It's a very, very valid comment and suggestion, and it's something that's been brought to our attention as well. I think we're too much in the infant stages to really sort that out, but I personally would love to see it incorporated some way, somehow. It'll be interesting to see how we can parlay that as far as with the roster numbers and the amount of events and the length of the meets, et cetera, et cetera. But I think down the line, I think it's something that definitely needs to have a serious thought process behind it.
I also think it's in the United States, it's a bigger culture issue. I don't know when the Paralympics air in Japan, but I definitely know in the UK and a lot of Commonwealth countries, you have the Olympics on national TV, and then you have the Paralympics. And in the United States, it's on kind of digital networks that no one can ever find. So that's something I feel really strongly about. I don't know what I can do about it, but I would love to see the Paralympics in prime time on NBC immediately following the Olympic Games. I think that would make a huge difference for people.
Yeah, right. Really good point.
Yeah, in the UK, Channel 4 is broadcasting and promoting the Paralympic Games, and they have really good creatives.
Yeah.
and promotion of Paralympic athletes, and which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So showing their athletics level, and as a high performance athlete, they're admired, by people, general public, and so they have kind of culture in Commonwealth countries, and I think in the swimming Australia, they have how many departments, but Olympic swimming, Olympic open water, and Paralympic swimming. So they are in the same umbrella. So they can train together and doing the same management. So that's pretty interesting culture to learn. So I think that's a little bit different in the States situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I it's gonna be a good suggestion in the future. I will talk with Kosuke about that.
Perfect. Make a call.
Okay, so let's move on to change the topic a little bit. Leave from swimming. I would like to talk about music a little bit.
Sure.
So Emily, you have project, and you will host a music festival, right?
Yeah.
On digital. Do you want to share about that information?
Yes, thank you. So I'll try to explain this as quickly as possible.
Or maybe I can share a screen if you'd like.
I don't think we need to do that. I can explain it.
Okay.
I'm the founder of #IVoted. Our last election. So I'm originally from a state called Wisconsin, and the 2016 presidential election was decided there by 22,000 votes. It was decided in the state next door by 10,000 votes, and I read that voter turnout was down. And I was like, 10,000 people or 20,000 people, that's our basketball arena. Why don't we put together some sort of awesome concert and tie in voting? But I realized if we took the concept national, we could have that much more impact. So we had elections in 2018, the midterm elections, and we activated over 150 venues to let fans in on election night who showed a selfie from outside of their polling place. We were in 37 states, all these phenomenal artists performed, all this press happened, and it was really just myself and an intern. It was an idea that caught fire and the industry really liked it. So now, obviously, we're in pandemic times, and we're inviting artists to perform via webcast for this fall's election on November 3rd. And fans can access the stream by RSVPing with a selfie at home with their mail-in ballot or from outside of their polling place. If they're not 18 by November 3rd, they can RSVP with a video, letting us know what election they will be 18 for and why they're excited to vote. And if you're not an American citizen, you can RSVP anyway. So instead of just getting artists that are on my roster or I know personally or that we hope people will like, we partnered with a platform called Chartmetric, and we're literally inviting artists who are the top streaming artists in and or from each state. So we're through about 4 states data, and we've confirmed over 200 artists. So the rate that artists are confirming, I think it's going to project out to about 1,500 artists. So iVoted is turning out to be the largest music festival of the year, all in support of voter turnout. And I'm now being told it might be the biggest digital music event ever, I guess. And other people are saying things that are kind of blowing my mind, but thank you for pulling that up. There's all the information. You can sign up for the email list if you want to get alerted when our RSVP system is up. We're continuing to announce artists throughout the summer. We just added some comedians. We'd love to be in NBA games after there's a vaccine. I was talking to the Charlotte Hornets before this. So yeah, we have a 30-person volunteer team right now, and it's been a blast to work on. The artists have all been really inspiring.
That's amazing. So yeah, that's a really great program and exciting, connecting those election to music.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, and you can engage more younger generation to this political movement. So yeah.
Glenn Peoples at Billboard may or may not be watching. He said he would watch, but he pulled an amazing stat in an article for us, and I don't have it memorized, but basically he pulled, here are the young demographics that vote, and it was like 35%. It was really small. And here are those demographics and the percentage that go to concerts, and it was like 65%. So over twice as many young people go to concerts regularly than they do vote. So we're hoping to change the culture around that and really celebrate voting.
Great. So do you think you can connect this kind of project from music to sport as well?
1,000%. I would love to do. I voted at ISL meets, but I think we'll probably start with the NBA post-pandemic. And I know once we get one team on board, the rest will fall like dominoes. So I voted is absolutely not limited to music. That's what I know, and that that's kind of who my people are. But we just confirmed W. Kamau Bell. We're talking to a lot of other comedians, and I definitely want to be in sports, and I think that'll be much more relevant once there's a vaccine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, how do you think about that project, Kaitlin?
Honestly, it's like mind blowing. Like, she never ceases to amaze me. She's like so outside the box and like so just like ahead of the game. And I think, we're roughly the same age, and I think we're considered like young doing such like big things. And I think that's just, it's just inspiring and motivating. And it's funny, we had a conversation probably over a month ago now, and she's like, this is like me getting ready for the Olympic Games right now. I know how serious and important and what a huge task at hand it is for her. But if anybody can do it, she's the woman for the job. That is for sure.
Wow. And I really hesitated on saying like, this is my Olympics, because that's such a special thing. I know I said this is my championship meet, but Kaitlin.
Oh yeah, sorry. That's my
Olympics. But in all seriousness, it is very much a translation from my training, right? It's like, I know the date of November 3rd. That's my championship meet. I'm trying to take care of myself, physically, mentally, personally. Like, I'm focused on a goal and pulling this huge festival off. So there's no way I could do that without my background as an athlete in swimming.
Yeah. So you set the goal. So you just keep focus on that.
But I feel like an experienced athlete at this point. Someone just said to me, "Are you stressed?" And I'm like, not really, because I have a lot of support. It's like my parents are swimming coaches. My grandfather was a swimming coach. My great grandmother was a swimmer. So I did say to my parents, it's like, you don't want to be like, well, I'm seated first by 15 seconds. I got this. I don't feel that way. I feel confident in my training and my ability and the support system, just like a more mature, experienced athlete does. I didn't feel that way in college as a swimmer. But I do feel that way about I voted right now, knock on wood.
Emily doesn't get stressed too much. Like, she's had to keep me cool, calm, collective. Like, last year I was a hot mess trying to manage all of this. And she's like, you don't need to freak out until I'm freaking out. And she never really freaked out.
But again, that comes with experience. It's like, how did you feel training at University of Michigan versus like when you were 16, 17? It's just like, you were probably less nervous at meets, right? Like, you'd been there before. So like anything, that experience just pays dividends.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, I feel that I kind of have the same sort of philosophy or habit. When I focus on something, even though there are so much things going on, I just trying to complete that. Like this, 24 hours. After that 1 year, 1 year to the games segment at the Olympic Stadium, I was there for my main task as Tokyo 2020. But I still keep doing this 24 hours because I just decided So I just do it until like it's halfway through. We started from 5 p.m. so it's 5:45. So it's halfway through. But still,
well, I'm blown away with that because I am very obsessed with sleep, and Caitlin's big.
Same.
But it's like a set, right? Or like a meet, and you can be halfway through and be like, I don't know if I can do this, but you push through, and your teammates help you, and your coaches help you, and that's what you're doing with this event.
Yeah,
that's true. So Emily, you have many different type of clients in your agency. Like you have like musicians or artists.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you have athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Are they different?
Good question. I think the big difference is a musician tends to grow up with an idea in their mind of what a manager will be like. So we actually really like taking on musicians that have had management before, because if they haven't, they might have an idea in their head that we're miracle workers and all these amazing things might happen very quickly. And actually, I mean, not to jump around too much, but Kaitlin's a good example of that. Like Kaitlin's had representation before, Anthony's had representation before. But yeah, on the music end, if they've had management before, we like that because we know we're good at what we do. We know we're on top of things. So there's a benchmark for them to compare it to. In swimming, and I feel this way about Anthony Irvin in particular, but same with Kaitlin, I don't know any swimmer that grows up like, what's my manager going to be like? What's my going to be like? You're just really focused on your sport, right?
It's more like, can I have a manager?
Honestly, that's the main difference. But I've always definitely always managed Anthony like a band, and always managed all of our sports clients like a band, because that's what I know how to do. But also what I mean by that is just kind of a more modern approach, right? Like what we're doing today, or Kaitlin getting on Cameo, or having a social media strategy. So I take all of those modern practices from the entertainment industry and the music industry, apply it to swimming, but then particularly because of the knowledge from my family, I speak the language of swimming, and that's what it's all about.
That's really interesting, because there are not many agencies or companies taking care of both artists and athletes. They're completely different.
And coaches.
Completely different.
Like, yeah,
and a coach.
And David Marsh feels like managing my parents sometimes, but it's just what I know. Right. So and again, my previous company managed initially music and comedy. And so people would be like, oh, that's so forward thinking. And I'd be like, I was laid off from my job and her boss was kind of a jerk. There was no like grand vision. And then with sports, I get that too. Like, oh, that's so cool. I've always wanted to have a sports division. And I'm like, I know swimming. I come from a, family of swim coaches. So I'll get emails from like a tennis player or something. I'm like, you don't want me touching that. I don't know anything about that. I think no matter what people do, it has to be authentic. It has to be genuine and something that you're actually into. I mean, to each their own, but it's not like I set out like, we're going to do music and sports. I mean, I was all music, throughout my 20s. I wasn't swimming. I'd be on a tour bus in Europe, and sports or swimming would come up, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that was my life. I mean, it was a totally different world. Not different world, but yes, a different world. And then when I saw Anthony in 2012, and like the Rolling Stone profile and the sleeve tattoos and the great taste in music, and I was like, who's that good that takes a decade off to like play in bands and then reemerge and make the Olympic team? So he really combined my two areas of expertise, and that's why I was able to do that. If I wanted to represent swimmers, I think it's something I would have done a long time ago. I'm really, really proud of the three people that I work with, because I think they're all unique and all do different things. So that's very appealing to us.
Yeah, always think outside of the box is important. Knowing people who are, not related to what you focus on, then you learn a lot. So I think, so that's why I'm really interested in South by Southwest. They have so many different, different
tracks, they call it.
Tracks, tracks and expertise. So yeah, you are mentoring. You are a mentor at the South by.
Yeah.
But still, I think you could learn a lot from that event.
Yes.
How do you think about that nature of South by Southwest from your standpoint?
I think one thing they do really well is sometimes overlapping the tracks. So there's usually like 3 weeks of South by Southwest. There's like a week of, and like you said, there's a million subsets. There's like South by Southwest education, South by, there's all these new ones that are popping up. But usually it's like a week of film, a week of technology, and a week of music. And I've always kind of been at the forefront of music and technology. And South by Southwest music is usually like Wednesday through Sunday. But Monday and Tuesday of that week tends to be more music tech as opposed to just tech. So I like how they overlap those few days. I like coming in on that Monday, meeting with the different music tech platforms, and then kind of easing into full-on music. But I've also been to South by Southwest sports, which was really cool and really interesting. That takes place during Interactive. So yeah, I mean, Kaitlin hasn't even been to South by, but what do you think of Austin, Kaitlin?
I love Austin. It's like one of my favorite cities.
I love going to Austin. And, I've been there for South by and music a million times, but I often stay with, my friend Sarah, who swam for the University of Texas and was someone I swam against in Wisconsin. So there's always those swimming ties no matter where you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. South by sports, South by music, South by interactive.
There's so many.
Film.
Yeah. Nonprofits. I mean, I don't know if it's called that, but yeah, there's a lot. And you just have to be in the moment. And you might know this from events, but it's easy to look around and have, do you know what FOMO is? Fear of missing out. But you really just have to be present. You can meet people like in line for the bathroom or the bar or the restaurant or whatever, or to your left or to your right. I mean, there's amazing people everywhere. So you just have to, focus on the people that are around you, take care of yourself. And also, I was able to go to South by Southwest in college. And so any students that can go through their universities, the younger you can go, the more you can understand what that's like and not be overwhelmed, at age 25 when you are a professional. So any students that have the opportunity to go, I really encourage that.
Yeah, if this kind of conference or convention can be combined with sporting event, that would be really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
For example, if ISL could be a showcase for some technology.
Yeah.
If some tech company can apply their new technology in the field of play, that would be really unique experience for audiences, and also that's going to be a great entertainment.
Yes, they would love that too. That's very them.
Yeah, and plus, if it's combined with some other entertainment field like music or art, there's so many different type of entertainments. But if you can combine these different entertainment contents, that'd be really interesting. So I want to make these kind of things in the future.
That's awesome. We want to help every way we can. That's really cool.
And in Tokyo.
Yeah, no.
So you can. Yeah, you can help me out and come into Tokyo.
Done.
I want to.
Make these kind of festival.
Exactly.
In Tokyo.
And Japan, you have just an amazing love of music, right? I mean, the music fans there are freaking awesome. So and then the sports fans are great. So yeah, there's a lot of intersection there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's 5:54 in Japan local time. So I think we have five more minutes. But do you have anything you specifically want to cover, or I think I will ask you, Kaitlin, about your let's say expect expectation with ISL in the future and future of swimming. What would you like to? What's your expectation, or what do you want?
I think of what we touched on earlier when we were saying really to make it a successful professional sport and those financial opportunities that these athletes deserve. I mean, I just really feel strongly against any athletes that are currently training that have to have a type of job to pay their bills. I don't think it's realistic. And I know life's not fair, but it's not fair to put all that time and energy and love and devotion into the sport, but not truly to be able to be your best, because then you have to balance some type of career or financial gig on the side. I'm fortunate because I was on a great contract when I was swimming that I didn't have to, but I know I was few and far between. So my expectation is just, my hope is just to continue to grow the sport and give our athletes more opportunities. In general, I feel very strongly that swimmers are amazing human beings. They're very grounded. They're down to earth. They're genuine. They give back well. They are great with their fans. And I think those are true qualities of a role model. And I think that the swimming population have amazing human beings that young people should look up to. But a lot of these younger generations just simply don't know who they are. And I think we are searching for good leaders out there and good role models. I personally don't have kids, but watching my sister's kids, people who they idolize, I just kind of question, and I feel strongly that swimmers are the type of people that, can bring light and inspiration to our younger athletes and our younger generation. So I would love to have these opportunities because of ISL kind of filter that, if that makes sense. And just bringing more attention to our sport, letting it be something that you can watch like a professional baseball game or a professional football game on a regular occurrence. I think that's probably like the biggest difference, is that you just don't get to watch swimming on TV. But we're racing a lot. They race a lot. There's a lot of great meets out there, but it's just not televised, or it's not given prime time, or what we talked about, the different like channels and networks and whatnot.
Yeah, now we have so many different media platforms, so you don't have it doesn't have to be on TV. You can work with a lot of different digital platform, or even you can create your own platform, right? That is going to be the best way to make the revenue, I think, like MLB did. They had MLB Advanced Media, and now it's spin off from MLB, and the startup company called BAMTech is media solution company, and they're now under Disney, right? And they're the base of Disney Plus services. So yeah, that's interesting story. They're from Disney Plus is from MLB.
That's great.
Yeah, that happened. So yeah, if we can make such kind of things happen, that would be great value of sport, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. So keep going, and good luck for your next season with DC Trident.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will cheer for you and also the Tokyo team, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. If you have to.
1 minute, but I would have a comment on the future of swimming. I would like the future of swimming to be not just the talking point of diversity. I'd like to see no more all-white swim teams. I'd like to see much more investment in learn to swim at all ages. I'd like to see pipelines into club teams, high school teams, and elite. I'd love to coach a Black swim team here in New York City after the pandemic. So the future of swimming, I think, can look, particularly in the United States, can look a lot different than it has for the past century.
And getting pools in more than just affluent communities I think, that's so important. And, people are wondering where the miss is. And a lot of it's right there. I mean, pools are hard to get into. Even for myself, where I live, people are like, do you swim all the time? I'm like, I don't really have a pool to get to. And I'm in an affluent community in Southern California. So I think we need to be very mindful when placing these, the pools and the teams that go with the pools, obviously.
Exactly.
That's a great point. Okay, so now the time's up, and my friend Tak is on.
Hi, Kaitlin. Hi, Emily. How are you?
Good.
How are you?
Bright
Thank
and
you
early.
so much for your talk. Yeah, a little coffee helps.
Yes.
You look so sleepy.
I look so sleepy. No, it's starting to get bright over here, so I think the sunlight's going to wake me up a little bit.
Yeah.
But super interesting to hear you guys' stories about, the whole swim channels and creating your own, kind of your own path in a sense. I think that's super cool and kind of like, it's kind of what we are in the future right now. So, hopefully that comes to reality and we can see that happen and then, create your own path as a swimming culture, swimming team, swimming organization, swimming community. And I think there's going to be some super, super cool things that we can do. And hopefully you can get that into a reality sooner than later. The future is now.
Yes.
The future is right now.
Absolutely.
So let's make that happen.
I love it.
All right, so thank you guys. We have next session, so thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
Take good care. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Yes,
Yeah.
we will.